Hi, everyone, and welcome back to the show. I'm Tim Peter. Google has just released new Agentic AI capabilities in its Chrome browser, and it's entirely possible that those capabilities will upend the entire content economy. If agents make decisions for your customers, will your content marketing still be as important? This is coming fast. This is real right now. And we cannot simply bury our heads in the sand hoping for the best. I don't think agents are the end of your website or the end of your content marketing or, candidly, the end of your brand. I think they're an evolution of where we've been. More importantly, I believe it's in our best interest to make sure that our content and our websites remain within our control, not just now, but for the longer term. I also believe that surrendering our content to other channels or to generative AI alone is a huge mistake, one we'd be well served to avoid making. Why is that? What's the big deal about agentic AI and content? And what can we do about it? This is episode 471 of The Big Show. Let's dive in. Something that is universally true is that agents need content. I'm going to assume, for reasons that I'm going to get into a little bit later in the show, that agents will want the best content that they can get their hands or little AI agent brains on every single time. Sure, they can make up their own content using generative AI to create answers that probably make sense. They can also source it from social media, from user generated content. Generative AI and social sites, or UGC, are 100% absolutely potential sources. In fact, I think they're more than potential sources. They are likely to be actual sources some of the time. The challenge for your brand and for your business is that you don't control either of those. But that's okay because there's another challenge, and that's the challenge for agents. The challenge for the agents is that each of those other sources have some inherent trust issues. And I don't think that's a small challenge. I think that's a pretty big problem. Is the content that they find or create accurate? Is the content true? Does it have biases? Sure, content on your website will also have a bias, but that's a known bias. The answer engine can take those biases for granted and attempt to adjust its expectations for them. Unknown biases, the type that might sneak into Gen AI content or on social media sites, those are a lot tougher to figure out. Was the content on a UGC site written by an experienced customer? Or was it written by a competitor or maybe a former employee with an axe to grind? Figuring out whether or not those content sources meet the standards that they have to set for quality content is really challenging. And I'm going to come back to this in just a moment, so hang tight. I expect that the content they'll rely on will be a combination of sources. It'll be your content, what you say about your products, your services, and your solutions to customer problems. It will also be UGC, user generated content, that validates what you say. And some of it might be generative AI when that adds to the overall content experience for the person who's actually interacting with the answer engine. Next, agents will need a place to go to find that content. That could be your brand's social presence. Sure, absolutely. It also raises the issue for you that social sites might preference somebody else's brand, somebody else's content over yours for any number of reasons. Could be commercial reasons, could be quality reasons, could be they just like them better. Who's to say? You just don't have the control then. Social sites like that also raise the issue of whether or not the page where the answer engine finds the content, if it's genuine or not, if it's a genuine and trusted source of content about your brand, your products, your services. Again, is that content accurate? Is it true? Is it free of unknown biases? That's the problem with content on sites other than those that belong to brands. That's been true for a while. Instead, it's better for the answer engines if they find the content they need on a trusted source, something like, oh, I don't know, a website, then also use user generated content to test the brand's content's claims against. So, while you'll undoubtedly use social media and other resources to put your content in front of both customers and AI answer engines, you also will always need a place where your content can always be found. Always. I'm going to say that again. Always. In short, you'll still need a website. I do think it's incredibly likely, in fact, it's almost certain, that the definition of a website will change. You'll probably use more structured data or tools like a model context protocol server, an MCP, to make your structured data more accessible to AI answer engines. Your web pages, your entire website might be more dynamic, exposing only content that's most relevant in the moment to the actual human beings who visit your site. None of those factors, though, mean that your website goes away. It simply evolves. If you think that my point about websites evolving is wishful thinking, we actually have a real world case that followed this exact model. We've seen this movie before. Google and other traditional search engines have given more weight to brands and trusted domains in their algorithms in recent years to prevent spammers and scammers from taking over their search results. Those algorithms increasingly favor large, well known brands as trusted sources of information. That's why larger sites have been winning in search more often, and why smaller sites have had a harder time cutting through. Google's quality rater guidelines have specific sections advising their quality raters to evaluate the reputation of the website, not just the page, placing particular emphasis on validating that other sites also speak well of the business or the website. They want to be sure that they're getting information and that they're learning from the most trustworthy sources in every case. Similarly, Google's ongoing focus on EEAT, that's experience, expertise, authority, and trustworthiness, reflects Google's desire for truly trustworthy content, content that they can believe in. Remember, they added experience recently. It used to just be EAT, expertise, authority, and trustworthiness. But it's not enough for them that content was created by people with quote unquote expertise. They also wanted folks with, and I quote from their guidelines, necessary firsthand or life experience for the topic. They wanted to be sure that the people who were talking about this literally knew what they were talking about and had hands on experience. If you ask me, it looks like the LLMs haven't figured out the importance of that work yet. They really haven't delved into that enough yet. I'm convinced that they will. I spoke about this in our last episode, and I'm going to continue speaking about this until I see evidence that suggests it's no longer necessary. But LLMs have a lot of trust factors to deal with. They've got a big one right now. They've got hallucinations. If you're not familiar with why hallucinations are a big deal, I'll point you to research in the show notes that explains why hallucinations might be an inherent and permanent feature of the way generative AI works. Hallucinations almost certainly are not going away anytime soon. Add in the fact that scammers and spammers are trying to get their content into large language models, into AI answer engines. And you've got a recipe for really bad answers being presented to customers regularly. Longer term, I'm confident that this is an issue that LLM companies must address. AI answer engines have to get this right. If customers find that they can't trust the answers they're getting from, for instance, ChatGPT or Perplexity, it's easy enough for them to switch to someone else. After all, isn't that the very situation Google faces right now? Isn't that why people assume that they're under threat? That customers are looking for better answers. Customers ultimately get to decide who wins as their go to experience for the answers that they need. Period. Only services that give them the answers they need are in a position to succeed. Your job is to make sure that you appear there, and that ultimately depends on your content. Finally, I genuinely believe with all of my heart that we are foolish to give up our websites without a fight, to give up ownership of our content and the customer experience without a fight. The open web has been one of the most critical resources helping businesses, new and old, small and large, attract and acquire customers effectively, efficiently, and affordably. The open web is under greater threat than it's been at any time in its 35-year history. These threats aren't just from AI answer engines. They're also from entities and enterprises that want to put themselves between people and the content that those people can see. That's an enormous problem. I've talked about how Gatekeeper's going to gate here on the podcast, on my blog, and in my book for years. Well, Gatekeeper's going to gate isn't always solely about business or economics. And it's something that we need to be really conscious about and do our best to prevent from making go away. So the question becomes, what can you do to keep your business front and center for your customers as AI agents emerge? I'm not suggesting that we're not going to have AI agents. They're real, they're coming, and they're going to be important. But there are things you can do to ensure that you remain relevant and remain front and center with your customers as they become more everyday experiences for people. The first of them is to own your content hub. Keep your website and your CRM as the single source of truth for your brand. Think of it as your control center for both customers and AI agents, the one place they can always go to, the hub. You've heard me say it before, content is, was, and always shall be king. Make sure the king has a place it always lives. Next, begin to structure your content for AI. Make sure you're connecting your data with artificial intelligence in appropriate ways. Invest in cleaning up structured data, invest in adding website schema, or begin testing emerging tools like MCP servers so agents can easily understand, find, and surface your content to customers. Next, leverage social proofs. I'm reasonably confident, I've said this a couple times in this episode, that AI will look for external confirmation of your content's claims. Actively encourage and curate user generated content that validates those claims. And make sure you're continuing to improve customers' experience so that your customers are want to tell a great story about your brand and business on social media, that they want to participate in the creation and curation of a positive brand story for your business. Again, customer experience is queen. Finally, evolve. Don't retreat. Agentic AI is not the end of content marketing. It's a shift in content distribution. That's how you want to think about it. Brands that adapt the fastest and the most effectively are going to win more trust. They're going to win more reach. They're going to win more customers. And ultimately, they're going to win more revenue. It's absolutely in your best interest to create content that continues to answer customer questions. It is also absolutely in your best interest to maintain a place that you own and control where that content can be found always. Anything else ensures that the gatekeepers will always win. It's surrendering your brand and your business without a fight. So maybe let's not do that. Now, looking at the clock on the wall, we are out of time for this week. I'm willing to bet that you know someone who would benefit from what we've talked about today. Are you thinking of someone? Why not send them a link to the episode? And let them know what you think too. Keep the conversation going. You can also find the show notes for this episode, episode 470, and an archive of all of our past episodes by going to timpeter.com/podcast. Again, that's timpeter.com/podcast. And of course, be sure to like and subscribe wherever you get your favorite podcasts. If you're looking for something to read about this topic in more detail, I'd love to suggest my book, Digital Reset: Driving Marketing and Customer Acquisition Beyond Big Tech, that you can find on Amazon.com or bookshop.org. Please pick up a copy and let me know what you think. I genuinely appreciate it. Finally, I just want to say thanks so much for listening. This show would not happen without you. We'll be back with a new episode next week. And until then, please be well, be safe, and as the saying goes, be excellent to each other. We'll see you soon.